All right, good morning, any replayers. If you're a replayer, you can still participate and you can tap on the screen for hearts. You can share this broadcast, you can follow me if you're new to me. You can find me on Twitter or Snapchat. If you're on Snapchat or you haven't been on Snapchat, Snapchat just did a new update and it's really, really cool. So if you haven't been on Snapchat, now is the time to get on. Hi, everybody joining live. And I need to get my... I have to... Hi, Tess. I think I saw Tess in there. Hi, Starnave. So it's going to be a short scope today, mostly because what's happening is I'm overscheduling. Good morning. Hi, Tess. I'm overscheduling. Hola. I play in wallets. Hi, everybody just joining. You know what happens when you take action, when you start taking action, you start getting busy, all of a sudden you start running out of time for the things that you were finding time for. So for anybody that's new to me, welcome. My name is joannazarach. I clearly just got out of the shower because I'm in a rush today. I usually try not to schedule meetings before 11 a.m., but I have an 11 a.m. meeting that's not near where I live. So I have to drive, which means I'm going to have to get off this broadcast in about 15 minutes. No, or maybe even less. Anyway, if you're new to me or just joining, this is the Money Habits broadcast. It's a 7-day-a-week broadcast that talks about, good morning, that talks about, Joe81, that talks about developing better money habits. And a lot of times, money habits also lead to questioning your money beliefs. And one of the things that I advocate for is people doing the math, right? I talk about doing the math a lot. I think that we really need to be more, be more, good morning, Joyce, be more critical in terms of following a money plan or following money advice or taking money advice. And by critical, I don't mean like criticizing people. I mean thinking critically, right? So one of the things that I encourage people to do is to question their own beliefs, beliefs around money and what we think about money and how we, you plan on losing lots of money. You know, that's probably a fairly easy thing to do, but if you find a creative way of losing money, I'd love to hear about it. And so one of the things that comes up a lot, and I'm going to be talking about this probably over the next, maybe even on Saturday, is this idea of trying to figure out what's better in terms of investing. Oh, not today, buddy. Back to the basement. Sorry. I don't mind trolls, actually. So one of the big questions that I always be like, back to your mom's basement, buddy. That, it's the pre-tax versus post-tax investing. Hey, Candy. Start a business. I can talk a little bit about it. I don't know if I'll get to it today, but I definitely have a lot of opinions on it and some experience from running my own consulting business, which is a little bit, consulting business is a little bit funny. It's not super high risk. If you have a skill set that you can sell, oh, thank you for the hearts. If you have a skill set that you can sell, it's a very profitable business, but not very scalable. Oh, thanks. I found out the information. Oh yeah, so two things. One is I was no. So two things. One is I wasn't able to do my money matters yesterday because I was like, okay, I have an appointment and I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it. I did not finish it because we dove deep not just into the person's finances but her business model, right? And so the right behind talking about personal finance, I don't have a site yet. I know I have some. I just jumped in and started talking about money on Periscope because I'm a consultant. I do business consulting, but money's my passion. So you can get me talking about money all day long. But my second favorite topic is businesses, right? Business structure. And I am a business consultant, so I actually have a lot of insight into it. And so if you talk to me about money and talk to me about business, and I'm gone, right? Like I can just go on for hours and hours talking about money in business and profitability and how to handle it and how to make it more profitable, grow revenue, blah, blah, blah. Not necessarily all the tactics. There's people who are way more informed about marketing, customer, no penny stocks for me, customer relationships, but for businesses that are functioning and how to make them more profitable, and just to even assess someone's like business savvy and what they're doing with their business. I love it. So I got caught up in that yesterday. I love the lady I met. She's still young, right? Anybody in the early 30s. I'm like, you're so young and you're so free and you're single. That's so awesome, right? Because when you're married with kids and you're pushing on 40, you're like, oh my God, your life's so awesome. And so, but it was very, yeah, right. Grass is always greener. Right? You're like, oh yeah, I have all that. I love my family. You guys know I love my kids, but they are a lot of work, and they do take a lot of time. So anyhow, back to business. So, one of the things that I'm struggling with, in my personal belief, is this idea of pre-tax versus post-tax investing. And if you're kind of new to that, it's basically like, what is the return overall? Like, what is the impact of your wealth building if you take advantage of your tax-deferred accounts? And that are like like IRAs and IRAs and 401ks and all that. So I'm a big believer in tax-deferred investing. And so I'm thinking in the shower and I'm like, how do I design a spreadsheet that's going to illustrate like effectively what happens to both the cash flow and the growth, right? Because that's the two things that are impacted by tax-deferred accounts. One is that when you invest in a tax-deferred account, it actually gives you some additional cash flow. And it sounds counterintuitive, right? Because you're taking a chunk. So I'm using like literally the simplest numbers I can come up with. I'm going, okay, you have $100,000 and you're going to pick $10,000 to go into either a investable, either after-tax or pre-tax investment, right? And so what happens is that your post-tax investment grows at a slower rate. If you invest in two funds, if you invest your $10,000 in the same fund, and one is in a pre-tax, like a tax deferred, and one is an after-tax account, the gains you make every year, because the mutual fund's going to report, and then you go, oh, mutual fund's going to report some sort of activity, and you're going to have to pay taxes on it. That's like there's going to be a third. Now that I'm talking to you guys, I'm going to have to do a third equation. That's going to be buy and hold of stocks that you have more control with. Because here's the thing. This all comes down to the taxation at withdrawal, right? And because I'm in the accumulation stage, I'm aware of taxation at withdrawal, but I really haven't done the math of taxation and withdrawal, if that makes sense. And the reason is because the math is uncertain and complicated, but it's not totally unknown, right? And so I like a lot of other things where I'm like, oh, this is just I just put extra, right? I just like, it's enough, right? I get to the point with all my finances where I'm like, nah, let's just not figure it out. It's enough. Like, I'm just going to invest more, right? That's been my strategy. Now, I'm questioning if that's the most effective thing and whether, and I don't think it's applicable to anybody, right? Because I just have I'm fine with just putting the stash away and going, well, it's going to be big enough. I'm not going to worry about it. But I'm questioning the effectiveness of my advice at different income levels, right? This is the real crux is how much benefit does someone get? So I still, right. I have to, so two components, right? So I'm like, literally, I'm in the shower. I'm like, okay, how do I structure this calculation? Because two things happen when you get a tax, when you put $10,000 into a taxable or a tax deferred account, they're going to grow differently, right? And so I think that that's one of the, one of the things. And I always try to do like maybe at least a decade, just so that I can have, it just shows enough of a difference, because everything after a year is too small. And so I try to do like a decade model for each one of my categories, right? And so like after 10 years, $10,000 in a taxable account is like almost $18,000, because I'm basically taking the taxes out, but I'm taking it out at like a 25% tax rate, right? So tax rates, here's the thing, like taxation really, really, really matters. And I'm trying to figure out how. Hey, Shannon. And so so I'm sharing with you guys my thought process on how I'm going to set up, because I'm still in the middle of setting it up. Why? Because like I said, I got busy helping a startup business or an established business. Just had this business for a couple years, but I love engaging in the business talk. So the question is, when you withdraw it, how much, let's see, if I withdraw at the end of 10 years, and the question is, what's going to be your tax rate at that time? And let's see, actually, 10 to 10 to 10 to 1 minus, okay, let's say it stays the same. Interesting. So here's the thing. Okay, if you take $10,000, and I have to run it through TurboTax. What I'm actually going to do is use my TurboTax program to run some scenarios and put the same amount of money in different boxes. Because that's like, I'm like, okay, sometimes I'm a little lazy, but sometimes there's also a lot of complicated tax treatments. So I'm going to test it in my TurboTax to say, if I actually had a tax return with like $30,000 or $100,000, what would be different actual tax rates? Because TurboTax has done all the hard work. But here's the thing. If you only invested $10,000 and it grew at the after-tax account, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade, you would have like 17,908. And that's just like very compound, it's very straight through 6%. It's almost like simple interest, right? Let's just keep it simple, right? I'm just comparing 6% to 8%. And really what I'm comparing is the same exact rate of return with a 25% taxable tax on the gain. So what you're able to reinvest is smaller. And then the tax deferred account is at 21.5 or so. And when you take it out and you tax it at 25%, then I got 16,000. Wow, that's lower than the taxable account. Here's the kicker. This is what I was thinking about in the shower. I know I have a lot of spreadsheet thoughts in the shower, which makes me so weird. But anyway, I was thinking, well, but what do you do with the tax deduction that you gain, right? Here's the thing. This is the crux of what I want to share today. I am a strange, I think about business models, profitability, and taxes and my spreadsheets, because I'm obsessed, right? I'm obsessed with like, how am I going to demonstrate it and how am I going to structure this so it makes sense, and why? Why is it that what I believe is right or wrong? And so the big underlying fundamental thing is that when you have a tax deductible, like a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA, where you contribute the money, you have, I've accumulated, right? Like I just did simple interest. It's because it's a comparison. So all of the intricacies that would be different would carry, right? So we could do the things around, sometimes the rates of return are higher or lower, but I'm like, but the relative ones won't change. So relatively, you will still kind of gain at that same level. The thing that is really the part of the equation that most people don't think about is that when I have a tax deferred contribution, I have the $10,000 in my investment, which I would have in the after-tax or pre-tax. But on my taxes, I got $2,500 back or more in my tax refund. And here is the question. What do you do with that extra $2,500, right? It just takes time, patience, and knowledge, guys. And the question is, what will you do with the extra $2,500? And that's actually the key to my answer of my belief. So because the straight math actually shows that you're better off with the $10,000 in an after-tax account, because you're going to get hit with the tax. If you're at the same level, tax level, 25%, you're going to be not as well off, except if you actually invest the extra $2,500, right? And that is the the fundamental difference between just math and then behavior with math. Because if you ask yourself, if you yourself go, okay, well, I have an extra $2,500, I already invested my $10,000, so now I have $2,500 to spend. That's a difference between what someone might do and what I would do. Because I would say, oh, I'm going to invest the extra $2,500. That's right. Because if you reinvest the extra $2,500 that you got from your tax refund, and again, we're just using round numbers to illustrate, that's going to grow, and that's going to overcome the taxability of your tax deferred growth. That's the key. That's the key in my equation. And like literally, because I was like, oh, what do I need to, how do I work it? So I'm going to keep developing the spreadsheet because this is a very fundamental point of what I teach on income, investments, on income and taxation, investments, big purchases, and risk. The taxation component and the investment components are so linked in my advice that deferred tax accounts are really, really important. Yes, reinvest to overcome the taxability of that growth too, and the principal and the tax deferred. And the other thing that I want to point out is if you're at all eligible for any Roth vehicles, that's the real beauty. Because if you can take the $10,000 and you can grow it tax free and none of it ever gets taxed, that's your best bet. And that's the where I think Roth IRAs you're eligible at lower income levels. And then if you're a solopreneur or if you have any side income, what I implore you to do is set up an individual 401k. Look into it. You can look into it at Vanguard, and then you can do a Roth employee 401k contribution. So you're not going to get the immediate tax relief this year, but what you're going to get is a Roth vehicle that's going to allow your $18,000 contribution to grow tax-free and never be taxed. And that's kind of to me, that's like the third vehicle. I feel like there are three places in which you should have money. You should definitely take some advantage of tax deferred or tax deductions because it gives you the extra cash flow, especially when you're cash flow challenged. The Roth vehicles are extremely effective because they combat some of that after tax. They have both the benefit of tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawal, and then the investable, the after-tax investments, because again, there's limits on those. Then they'll give you that kind of outright stuff. The thing that I do want to add to my equation, because I haven't thought about it. Why? Because I haven't experienced it. Find me on Twitter. And if I'm not following you, like you can tweet at me and say like scope question and I'll follow you because then I'll know it's you. I don't know if you have the same exact thing. If you have the same exact username on Twitter, I'll follow you. I don't know how the direct messaging works. Or Snapchat. Guys, Snapchat just rolled out a whole brand new update on it, and it's awesome. It is awesome. Like all the like little annoying things that you have to explain to people on Snapchat. Like they've really evolved Snapchat. That shit is real. Like Snapchat is cool. Like I got on Snapchat last month and I was like, yeah, blah blah blah, this that, and like the changes that made this morning. I'm on Snapchat. The Snapchat just got rolled out today. So this morning I was like, the experience is entirely different. It's subtle for Snapchat users, but it's different. So you can find me on either place, because again, email, I just like forget it. Like Facebook messaging, I hate it. I don't hate Facebook, but Twitter or Snapchat, best places to find me and ask me questions. Anyway, I have to do the capital gains, long-term capital gains. It either will, because I don't know. I think that there's been some offers to buy it, and it will. But it has to build up the user base, and has to have some revenue models, and I know they had some brands on there, but I think like some of the geo filters, they're doing some interesting things. I think eventually it will go public. That's how the investors get their money. That's the big payout is the IPO, which of course always like boop and boop until they have a revenue model, right? Hello, Twitter. And so I want you, anyhow, check it out. I think it's worth checking out more, like as of today, literally, than it has been in the past. So anyway, the long-term capital gains, I have to do that calculation because that's kind of the interesting thing, because capital gains taxation, and again, I learned it from looking at someone else's tax return. I posted on the personal blog, and I was like, ooh, I need to get my hands on this calculation, right? So let's talk about it. I will talk about it probably next week because I'm getting busy. I'm getting busy, which is good. But I still try to make time to get on here, and in a couple more weeks it'll get less crazy. Anyhow, thank you everyone who's joined. I know this was a really quick scope. I do have a meeting, like a consulting meeting, for that I have to get down to, and I hate being late. Yes, but think about it, and we're going to continue covering this idea: the after-tax, pre-tax contribution, tax-deferred stuff, and what do you do with the extra money? That's really the center, and that's why I say behavior matters more than math. Because I show you the math, and I say, well, of course it's better, and you're like, no, because you still had an extra $2,500 today to put in play for the next decade. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining, for letting my nerd flag fly, my spreadsheet nerd. I finally found I finally found my mission to combine all these talents and what I get excited about. And I kid you not, like spreadsheets and math are my are some of the things that I just get super excited about, right? And teaching concepts, teaching finance concepts. Yeah, and so that you guys can I want people to take action, right? And do the path and follow the path to build wealth, to accumulate it. And that's what I'm good at. I'm good at accumulation over time. And I want to just share some of the things I learned along the way. And again, I question myself, and I love showing the math and saying, why does it work? Why does it not work? And then people can take action because they're like, oh, I see what you mean by that. And I see how that works. And I see how compound interest works and how taxation works and how investing works. So breaking it down. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I gotta run. I'll be on at 10 a.m. every single day, 7 days a week, Chicago time. I'm on to share my financial knowledge with everybody. All right. See you guys. Bye.